top lawmakers have unveiled a package to fund key parts of the government. Congress has until Friday to pass it to avert a partial government shutdown. The deadline, is a day after President Biden is set to deliver his State of the Union address. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now on set. Good to see you. So the government funding deadline is the day after the State of the Union address. Good timing. They have this bill. Will it pass likely? And what's in it?
There's optimism. There's prospects of good things. But let's take a moment, step back, and reflect on the timing. It's 4 to 6 weeks after Groundhog Day, and Groundhog Day is about to end. This thing's likely to pass and push all these deadlines till September, give some more sturdy footing for federal agencies, federal workers, contractors, and all those who are touched by government shutdowns. We know the prospects are good because each party's leadership, Democrats in the Senate, Republicans in the House, are spiking the football on what they're getting and the other side's not. What they're saying is advantageous for them and disadvantageous for the opposition. That's a sign both sides think they're getting a sufficient amount. What's not in here? A lot of those controversial policy writers, each side wants cuts to things or changes to things that simply would never go. They're poison pills. So there's a real finite number of policy changes included. It's really money. It's funding cuts to some things. Generally speaking, though, it's a continuity, a continuation of funding at similar or current levels for so much of what funds the government.
And that stability, at least for the rest of the fiscal year, is welcome, likely, around the country. State of the Union is on Thursday. The president is obviously preparing for it, but I think everybody kind of looks in the audience and sees or wants to know who is there. And a lot of times lawmakers bring guests to send a message. Anything notable this year?
There are going to be a number of them. They try to affect a messaging campaign by bringing certain guests to the State of the Union. It's a tradition that's going on for generations. But I think what you're going to see from Democrats is a synchronized message to try to lean into the issues involving IVF. You're going to have people with tethers to fertility treatments, having received them, having to help provide them, or having benefited from them as some way to reinforce what the president says, or to get the message out to the local communities, the local media before or after the speech about that issue. I think you're going to have Republicans bringing guests that are touched by the issue of border security, those who have stories to tell about issues involving migrants or issues involving major cities coping with the movement of migrants. That you're going to have that in the crowd as well. It's unclear if any of that amplifies what the president says, but it gives each member of Congress a chance to bring that to their hometown communities, their hometown media, and try to sell a message. And having those guests really does get the attention needed.
Yeah, that's really interesting, too, because those are kind of the top issues on both sides driving this election, or at least what the campaigns want to be driving the election: reproductive rights for the Democrats and immigration for the Republicans. Speaking of reproductive rights, Katie Britt is slated to give the response for the Republicans. I say speaking of because she is, of course, a senator from Alabama. That's where that ruling was. She's seen as a rising star in the Republican Party. Significant that she is giving this address?
I think quite significant. She's from Alabama. I think it's indicative of what Republicans expect the president to say Thursday or the Democrats to say in the weeks and months after. This is an issue that everybody's trying to measure. And I think Thursday will give you a good measurement with Katie Britt speaking as a young woman, as the junior senator from the state where this whole thing generated a few weeks ago. And I think it's at this point, everybody's expectation. The president has set aside a bit of bandwidth, perhaps quite a bit of bandwidth, to talk about IVF and reproductive rights is something symmetrical to last year when he spoke about reproductive rights after the Dobbs decision. And this year, it seems like everybody's getting ready for some amount of talking about IVF.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Republicans are likely to have some change in their ranks after November, with Mitch McConnell stepping down. John Thune has announced that he is looking to get into this race to replace McConnell. Not entirely surprising, but what is he advocating for?
Well, he's bringing something with him that is necessary. Still the larger number, if not the plurality or majority of Republicans in the Senate are Mitch McConnell Republicans. John Thune could bring them all in to the fold early on.
Interesting that he endorsed Donald Trump just before McConnell said he would step down from leadership. Scott MacFarlane, a lot to follow on Capitol Hill this week. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.